I've always believed that the past is the past. Everyone has their own story, their own baggage, and part of being in a relationship is accepting that. At least, that's how I've always approached things. So when my girlfriend, let's call her Emma, and I started dating 6 months ago, we didn't really dig too deep into each other's history. We kept things light, focusing more on building what we had in the present rather than dissecting everything that happened before we met. And honestly, it worked for us. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but we were happy together. We spent a lot of time with each other, going out, staying in, getting to know each other's quirks. She was funny, kind, and really easy to be around. If there was any tension between us, it usually came from little things, like how she was a bit jealous in the beginning, but I chalked it up to her caring about me and wanting things to work. Over time, she chilled out, and I took it as a sign that we were settling into a more comfortable, stable part of our relationship. But this past Saturday, things shifted. Emma stayed over at my place, and we had one of those nights that started innocently enough. We ordered takeout, opened a bottle of wine, and just relaxed. We ended up drinking more than we planned, which wasn't unusual for us. The night started to blur, and we found ourselves talking about everything, including topics we hadn't really touched on before, our past relationships, the mistakes we'd made, and what we wanted for the future. For me, the number of people she'd been with didn't matter. I've had my share of casual relationships, and I never believed in judging someone based on their past experiences. But somewhere in the middle of our conversation, she dropped a bomb that I wasn't expecting. Between laughs and drunken confessions, she told me she had cheated on every single one of her previous boyfriends. All 4 of them. At first, I wasn't sure if I heard her right. I was tipsy, and the way she said it made it sound almost casual, like it wasn't a big deal. But when I asked her more about it, she confirmed it. Every single serious relationship she had before me had ended because she cheated. My stomach twisted when I heard it. 4 relationships, all broken by infidelity, and I was the 5th. She must have seen the look on my face because she quickly tried to reassure me. She told me that things were different with me, that she had grown up, that she wanted to be with me forever. She said she had learned from her mistakes and wasn't the same person anymore. She said she had matured. But the thing is, her last relationship ended just 4 months before we started dating. 4 months. That's not much time to have some massive epiphany about yourself and how you handle relationships. It was like a switch had been flipped in my mind. I started wondering if I had been ignoring red flags this entire time, convincing myself that things were fine when maybe they weren't. We eventually went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going over what she had told me, and I started wondering whether I was going to end up like those other guys. Just another name on the list of people she had hurt. I'd always been clear that infidelity was a deal breaker for me. There's something about being cheated on that's so violating, so destructive, and I never wanted to go through that kind of pain. The idea that I could be setting myself up for that kind of betrayal gnawed at me. The next morning, Emma didn't mention anything about our conversation. When I asked her how she was feeling, she laughed and said she had a headache from drinking too much. I waited for her to bring up what we talked about, but she didn't. When I pressed her, asking if she remembered what she said, she claimed she didn't remember anything at all from the night before. Just like that, she brushed it off as if it never happened. That's when I started to feel uneasy. I wasn't sure if she really didn't remember or if she was pretending not to. Either way, it felt wrong. I spent all of Sunday thinking about it, trying to figure out if I was overreacting or if this was a legitimate concern. I wanted to bring it up again, to really talk about it when we were both sober. But every time I tried, she shut it down. She acted like it was no big deal, just some drunken rambling. But for me, it was a huge deal. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap, that I was just setting myself up to be the next guy she cheated on. And the fact that she didn't want to talk about it made me even more suspicious. Why wouldn't she want to discuss something so serious? If she really had changed, wouldn't she want to be open and honest about her past? Wouldn't she want to reassure me that I had nothing to worry about? As the days went on, I kept thinking about all the little things that had happened in our relationship, the jealousy, the times she'd get defensive when I asked her about her day, the way she avoided talking about her exes. It all started to pile up, and I couldn't tell if I was being paranoid or if these were genuine signs that something was wrong. I started imagining all the ways this could play out. Maybe she was telling the truth. And she really had changed. Maybe I was the person who made her want to be faithful, to commit fully to a relationship. But maybe I wasn't. Maybe she was just saying what I wanted to hear. And sooner or later, she'd do the same thing to me that she did to her exes. The thing is, I don't want to be the guy who's constantly looking over his shoulder, wondering if his girlfriend is going to cheat. I don't want to be in a relationship where I can't trust the person I'm with. And right now, that's where I'm at. I don't trust her. I want to, but I can't. I've thought about ending things. In fact, I've been going back and forth in my mind about it all week. Part of me thinks I'm overreacting, that I'm letting her past mistakes cloud my judgment. But another part of me knows that if I can't trust her now, it's only going to get worse. I've considered giving her an ultimatum. Either we talk about this and figure out where we stand, or we end things. But I worry that might come off as too aggressive, too controlling. At the same time, I can't keep pretending like everything is fine when it's not. The thought of being just another guy she cheats on terrifies me. I don't know what to do. Am I overthinking this? Should I trust that she's changed? Or am I setting myself up for heartbreak? Would I be wrong to end things over something that happened before we even met? These questions have been swirling around in my head nonstop, and I can't seem to find any answers. All I know is that I don't want to be the fifth. I don't want to be the next guy she hurts. And if I can't get past this, if I can't find a way to trust her, maybe it's better to end things now before it's too late. Maybe I should walk away before I become another name on her list of regrets.
I've always believed that honesty is the foundation of a strong relationship. At least, that's what I tell myself, what I've been taught growing up, and what I've heard repeated time and time again by friends, family, and even therapists on podcasts I occasionally listen to when I'm trying to work on myself. It seems obvious, right? If you want something real with someone, you have to be honest with them. You have to trust that they'll accept your flaws and mistakes and love you anyway. That's how relationships are supposed to work. But, of course, life is rarely that simple. And people are rarely that forgiving. The truth is, I've been carrying a secret. One that I've kept tucked away for months now as my relationship with my new boyfriend has grown. When we first started dating, I didn't think much of it. It wasn't relevant, at least that's what I told myself. But now, after nearly 6 months of being together, the weight of it has started to gnaw at me. It's like a dark cloud hanging over every conversation we have, especially the ones where he talks about trust or loyalty or his own fears about relationships. My last relationship ended because I cheated. There it is. That's the secret I've been keeping from him. And I know it's awful. It wasn't just a kiss, or some emotional affair that I could rationalize as a mistake. It was full-on, physical cheating, and it lasted for months before my ex found out. When it all came crashing down, I was devastated, not just because I got caught, but because I saw the hurt in his eyes and knew that I was the one who had caused it. I had shattered the person who trusted me the most, all for something that I wasn't even sure was worth it. And it wasn't, not even close. The worst part was, I didn't even have a good reason. There was no big fight that led me into the arms of someone else. No feeling of neglect or loneliness that drove me to seek affection elsewhere. I had just done it. I had taken my relationship for granted, gotten bored, and acted selfishly. It's a part of myself that I hate. And I've spent the last couple of years trying to move on from it. Trying to convince myself that I'm not that person anymore. But now, here I am, with someone new, someone I genuinely care about, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm living a lie by not telling him. I keep telling myself that I'm not that person anymore. That I've changed. That I've learned from my mistakes. But how can I claim to have changed if I can't even be honest with the person I'm building a future with? He's the kind of guy who values honesty above almost anything else. He talks about it often, about how he's been hurt in the past by people who lied to him. About how he can't stand dishonesty, especially when it comes to relationships. He's told me stories about how some of his past relationships fell apart because the trust was broken. And I can't help but feel like I'm just waiting for the day when he finds out that I'm not as perfect as I've let him believe. When he asks me about my past relationships, I tell him the general details, how long we dated, why we broke up, the usual stuff. I conveniently leave out the part about me cheating. Though, I'm too scared to say it out loud. To watch the look on his face change from admiration and love to disappointment and betrayal. It's cowardly. I know that. But it's easy to justify keeping it hidden when things are going so well between us. Why rock the boat? Why risk everything for something that happened years ago? But then there are the moments where we talk about trust. How important it is to both of us. Those conversations leave me feeling like a fraud. Like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. And any wrong move will send me plunging into a pit of lies and regret. It's in those moments that the guilt hits me the hardest. He doesn't deserve to be lied to. And yet, here I am, pretending that I've always been the faithful, trustworthy person he thinks I am. Sometimes I wonder if he can sense it. If there's some part of him that knows I'm holding something back. Even though I try my hardest to act normal. To pretend like everything is fine. Maybe that's just my paranoia talking. I don't know. All I know is that the longer I keep this secret, the harder it becomes to tell him. And the more terrified I become of what might happen if I do. I've thought about confessing 100 different times. In 100 different ways. But every time, I stop myself. I start to think about what would happen if I told him. Would he forgive me? Would he see it as a sign that I've grown? That I've learned from my past and want to be honest with him now? Or would it completely change the way he looks at me? Would he start to question everything about our relationship? Wondering if I'm capable of doing the same thing to him? And what if he can't get past it? What if telling him ruins everything we've built together? I can't help but think about that. About the possibility that coming clean could destroy us. I know it's selfish to think that way. But it's hard not to. I really care about him. And the thought of losing him because of something I did in my past makes my stomach churn. At the same time, I know that keeping this secret isn't fair to him. He deserves to know who he's really dating. He deserves to know the truth about me. Even if that truth isn't pretty. But I keep hesitating. Keep holding back. Because I'm afraid of what the truth might do. I've spent so long trying to leave that part of myself behind. Trying to move forward and be a better person. And now it feels like everything I've worked for is hanging by a thread. What's worse is that I don't even know if telling him would make things better or worse. On one hand, it could be a step toward being completely honest and open with each other. But on the other hand, it could plant a seed of doubt in his mind that never goes away. Even if he says he forgives me, will he ever fully trust me after knowing what I did? Will he always be wondering if I'll do it again? And will I be able to handle that kind of scrutiny? These are the questions that keep me up at night. The thoughts that run through my mind every time we're together and he says something sweet. Something about how much he trusts me or how lucky he feels to have found someone like me. Each time, it feels like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. A reminder that I'm not being the person he thinks I am. I've considered just living with the guilt. Keeping the secret buried forever. Maybe it's better that way. Maybe it's better to leave the past in the past and focus on the future we're building together. After all, I've changed, haven't I? I'm not that person anymore. I wouldn't cheat on him. I wouldn't risk losing him. So why should something that happened years ago affect us now? But then, I think about the day he might find out on his own. Maybe I'll slip up, or maybe someone else will tell him. And he'll realize that I've been hiding this from him all along. And when that happens, because deep down, I know it's a when, not an if, he'll see me for what I really am. A liar. A cheater. Someone who can't be trusted. I don't want to be that person anymore. I've spent so long trying to distance myself from my past. But the truth is, I'll never be able to fully move on until I come clean. I know that, but knowing it and actually doing it are two very different things. So here I am, stuck in this limbo, torn between wanting to protect what we have and knowing that I can't keep living with this lie hanging over us. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there even is a right answer. All I know is that I care about him too much to keep lying to him. But I'm terrified of what might happen if I tell him the truth. Am I the asshole for keeping this secret? Maybe, but right now, I feel like no matter what I do, I'm going to end up hurting him, and that's the last thing I ever wanted to do.